Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast, and what a beautiful scenery we've got here today. Excited about this interview, long time in the making, and I just know that we're going to talk 200 mile an hour. Aaron, you want to introduce yourself to the audience, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Aaron Weaver. I am originally from Holmes County, Ohio, and I sell sheds for Millcraft Barns out of Millersburg, Ohio. And, right now I also live up here in northern Michigan, which is where we're at, which is amazing because, yeah, like you said, this is a long time in the making. And we get to sit here on Lake Charlevoix and just do what we love and talk about what we love. And so, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it's very cool and very beautiful. One of the best backgrounds that we've had so far. So for those who are watching on YouTube, it's a treat. It's very cool. Man, all of Michigan's been cool. Definitely the top of the lower peninsula has been a lot of fun. Got to hear some shed haulers, and it's just been really cool. Got to go up and see the island.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful up there. We met this really awesome couple running a new campground, and just, man, life's good.
Yeah. Michigan, Michigan has the whole state when you travel. Obviously I'm from Ohio, so I'm not supposed to be in Michigan as a Buckeye, but
that's right.
Once you get past mid-state of Michigan, you get up here in northern Michigan, it's a whole different world. And but there's so much beauty up on the island, and the people are so friendly.
Yes.
It's I think what's cool about it is it reminds me of the reason I could move up here was because it reminded me of home. If anybody knows, Holmes County, most of the time when you're driving, people wave at you, and they do what I call the Amish wave, or the buggy wave,
Yeah.
It's beautiful up here, but I still, my heart's in Ohio.
Ohio, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But you guys, Michigan, wasn't that was Tom Brady? Right?
I think. Listen, I'm not a Michigan fan, so
okay.
All right. I am an Ohio State Buckeye, and I always will be.
Well, yeah, I know guys that are Ohio fans. And I think Brady was a Wolverine, and then he went and played for New England, and they were like, "Oh man, I got to embrace this guy." But you know what? It worked out pretty good for him. So
it did.
So tell me, man, your shed story. How'd you get into sheds? You woke up one day and said, "I want to be in the shed business," like all of us.
Not quite like that. It was interesting. My background is business. My background is sales, doing that thing. And, a couple, this has been back in 2018, 19, Millcraft Barns, again, in our community, we all know each other, and, we know what we're good at, and, whatever. And so they had opened up a store, and, they were trying to find someone that could, basically sell some sheds, and, they had some I would say some people that were in there that, they just didn't know, selling sheds, and they were just looking for someone. And at that time I had just got done selling my company in the oil field, and I was drilling oil.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to be in business. I don't want to be, I just want to drill oil, and that's it. And, Millcraft called me up, and they were like, hey, would you be interested in, selling sheds? And I'm like, I'll never forget where I was sitting. I was on the oil rig, and I'm sitting there because I was in my barracks, or what we call our bunkhouse area. And I'm like, sheds? How am I going to give up drilling oil to sell a shed? And in my mind, I'm just thinking how can you make a living selling a shed?
Right.
It just didn't make sense to me. And, I fought it for a while. And then finally, after a while, I was like, hey, I'll come basically and help, see what it's about. Maybe not. If anything, I'll give you guys some, help, maybe finding the right person. And it was a Thursday night or a Thursday night, and I was working midnight shifts on the oil rig. We work 14 days on, 14 days off. And I got off and I went right there on a Thursday night, and I kind of procrastinated because I really didn't want to do it. I really didn't, and because I just couldn't understand it,
Yeah.
And so I showed up, and it was dark, and I showed up at this store, and anyway, after we talked a while, I looked at what they had and what they weren't doing. And it wasn't their fault. Nothing that they were doing. It's just they're builders.
Yep.
And I saw an opportunity to where if it was done different, there could be a lot more success.
Yeah.
And that night I shook their hand and I'm like, I mean, there was a little bit here and there that we had to get worked out, but I kind of came back with a plan of what I thought we could do. And really the rest is history. Now I've got 3 stores. We're getting ready to open a couple more. But, right now we've got 3 stores, one in Youngstown, Ohio, Canton, Ohio, and Findlay, Ohio. Very good stores. I got managers in each one of those locations. And yeah, we're doing
and
we're
growing.
Doing, yes.
I mean, like
we are growing.
Yeah. Kind of going from a low point in sales to you guys are hitting some really, we won't talk numbers, but hitting some nice numbers.
Very nice. And it was prior to COVID. So it wasn't even just that COVID is what leaped us. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Everybody got everybody
got a boost.
Really got a boost. And, but I think right now it's so important to make sure you're looking at numbers prior to it, because we all know no matter what business you were in, COVID changed everybody's world as a business owner or if you were in any kind of business doing anything.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, it goes back to doing things in a different way. And you and I've talked about this. And when I looked at it in the beginning, I was looking at it as, how could I sell a shed? I can't sell a shed. I mean, I could sell a shed, but how am I going to make a living selling a shed?
Yeah.
When I turned my mindset into, what is my real purpose? My purpose is not to sell a shed. My purpose is to bring people in. I'm in the people business.
Yeah.
How can I give a person something that they really need? And that they can use. And as soon as I changed my mindset into, I can't sell a shed, or how am I going to sell a shed? And I did more of, what is this person looking for? What can I provide to this person?
Yeah.
And next thing, one thing led to another, and next thing you know, you're selling multiple sheds, and and then you are like, okay, I can duplicate this.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like life. Anything you do, if you don't have a purpose and you're in it to, and this, I mean, you're not in the podcast world. You're not in that
world.
You're
man.
in the people world.
Absolutely.
You're communicating.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to communicate. When we were sitting there with like even the RV camp owners, I start talking to the people because it's what I do. I can't stop myself. And next thing you know, I'm like finding out she's, there from the island and around, and the guy's like a retired United Airlines pilot, and they used to be RV people themselves, and they just opened up after 4 weeks. And next thing you know, in my head, I'm sitting here going, like, you're interviewing these people is what you're doing right now. And then like this light bulb comes over my head. We travel enough. Maybe an RV podcast would be.
Oh, I think
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're, like in your head, you start thinking immediately, like, I love to sit down and talk to these people, so I'd love to hear their story. Sheds has been the common denominator to communicate.
Yep.
And sheds and the world that's gone so far beyond, carports and post frame and tiny homes and everything else. And you're kind of understand that because you're multi-talented, multifunctional.
Yeah, diversified.
Diversified.
And I think that's what's important, and it's life. And I say this, I do a radio show here locally in Traverse City, and I talk a lot about the housing industry. I talk about tiny homes, all that stuff, but life is all about an interview. Anybody you walk upon, you're interviewing them if you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And so, if you're not a good interviewer, it's going to be a challenge for you to do anything. But everybody has their place. And, and that's something that Millcraft and myself, we were able to come to a common denominator that they're great builders. Yep. Their product is amazing.
Yep.
and I'm a great salesman, and and it works if you combine those together.
Absolutely.
You're powerful, and I always say I'm only as good as the people that are around me. And
that's exactly right.
If I didn't have a product that I didn't believe in, I can't sell it. If you don't have something that you believe in, or you aren't genuinely talking to someone, you're not going to have a podcast.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's what's so unique, and why we have connected the way we've connected is because we both have a purpose of why we're on this earth.
For sure, man. I was just mentioning, like, we're starting to do like more series where we can create, where we can bring in like 3 or 4 different people on Zoom. We just did one with a shed hauler, a shed builder, a shed salesperson. We can bring more people in, or maybe even get an RTO guy on, or get a builder on one time, or get a 3D configurator on one time to kind of discuss, why it's necessary to do these things. But we can create good content, and good content is really what's on my heart because, I make my living via advertising, and now marketing as well is included in that. And Lord knows what else is going to open up, but I'm just excited about the opportunities. But we're doing that by connecting with people.
Correct.
Ultimately, it comes down to making a connection, and when opportunities for collaboration come up, that's something me and you were discussing in details. What are your thoughts on collaboration in the industry? How does it help? Where does competition fit in versus collaboration?
Well, my competition knows how I feel about competition. I think that it's the best thing in the world. It keeps everybody honest.
Yeah. Keeps you sharp.
And I think you should always work with your competition, because, when you're closed-minded and you think your competition, you're scared of them and you don't want to collaborate, or you don't want to help them out, or you don't want them to help you out, and you look like enemies, you're just going to fall, or you're going to stay stale. I think competition is great, and I always have a thing that I always say, and that is stop being competitive and be creative.
Oh.
And
speaking from my heart right now, dude.
I find that the more creative and the more I collaborate with competition, other people, and not even just competition. I say competition because I think people are scared to talk about this. And I think that the only reason I've been successful is because I have worked with my competition. If I didn't have a product in the right price line as my competition, and my customer came in, I didn't say, okay, well, I'm sorry, I can't provide this for you. Have a good day. No, I said, hey, listen, there's a guy across the street here. His product might fit you better than what mine's going to.
Yeah.
And I brought value, and guess what that person did? They told their friends about me.
Yeah.
And then I had, someone else in there, and my competition across the street did the same thing. And that was one thing when I came to that lot in Canton, Ohio, is there was a competitor right beside me. And the first thing I thought is, I'm going to go over there and introduce myself and start being friends with him.
Yeah.
Because if we can become the shed corner, listen, I'm not going to be able to handle 20,000 people coming to my lot. I needed somebody else to be there.
I thought it was kind of cool. Richard Miller posed a question on the Shed Sales Professional Facebook group recently, and that's one of the things he asked was, what's like hitting the industry right now? What's its biggest concern? Or I don't remember the exact question, but basically I remember looking through the answers and being kind of surprised, because so many people was like, being able to work together with your competition, not having the guy down the street badmouth you. It looks bad when you badmouth them and they badmouth you, and then the customer kind of is like, I don't want to go to any of these guys, or they don't have a good experience, or maybe they're shopping at a big box store or something like that. We kind of feel like, there's a place for all of it, competition and collaboration, but it seems like there's a growing industry and trying to do more together. I'm excited about it.
And I think the other thing is like, having a platform like yours, where you might have me on here as Millcraft, right? And you might have somebody from Old Hickory. You might have somebody from Sheds Direct. You might have somebody from United Builders. All these different people. At the end of the day, we're all quote unquote competition, right?
Yeah.
But what's nice about your platform is you bring us all together, and we all have the same exact mindset, and we have the same vision, we have the same thoughts. And so, like, for me, I know people that probably would never come on the podcast because, oh man, you've got my competition on there. Why would I want to go on? But it's not like that. What I've learned about you is you have that mentality to be able to bring competitors together and have the same purpose. Man,
I appreciate the kind words. That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
And I think, you're building that trust. And I think that that's so important in this industry because we are a small industry, yet we are a large industry.
Yeah.
And, if we're sitting out there battling each other, the only people that are losing are the people out there that are looking for a shed.
Is your current sales and inventory management system complicated and frustrating? Are you tired of juggling multiple systems to keep track of your business? Those challenges are a thing of the past with a dealer management system powered by RTO National. With the DMS, you can easily process any type of sale with just a few clicks. Leave messy paperwork in the past and welcome in streamlined processes. The intuitive e-commerce links allows customers to browse and shop your inventory anytime, anywhere. Track transportation, payments, and contracts efficiently using our unparalleled service request management and transportation tracking tools. Detailed reporting within the system allows you to track every sale and payment, helping you make data-backed decisions to grow your business. Revolutionize your current workflow with the dealer management system. Explore the user-friendly interface and experience the DMS firsthand by scanning the QR code or emailing us at contactus@rtonational.com to request a demo.
Occasionally, nothing worth doing comes without challenges and things you have to overcome and stuff like that. And I've really had to put in perspective, even some of my own, early on, I don't even know if it still says that. I probably need to update my bio on my website, but there for a long time I said, I come with a laundry list of bad jobs, bad bosses, bad decisions. And I had somebody interview me based off of that. And I was kind of they were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, hey, listen, we're all accountable. I have had some bad bosses. That's the truth. And the truth is I've made some bad decisions too. And I don't think anybody who goes through life that's doing anything is gonna not be able to say the same.
Correct.
I mean, I've literally failed my way to succeed.
We all have. I mean, that's the only way, that's the only way you can grow, we call it failure, but it's not failure. It's growth.
It's growth. It's learning. It's overcoming.
It is.
Yeah, obstacles and just challenges. And, I remember always being like, gosh, there was times I remember being like, I feel like the weakest person on the team. And it's like, but even the Bible says, the least of these, you know what I mean? Yep. I can take, and it's not about qualifying you, if I can take you and put you in a position of value or whatever. And it's kind of like, well, if that's what my will is, so be it. Right. Yeah. So, my life is in his hands anyway. So whatever he decides it'll be.
Yep.
It's really cool. And I really do appreciate the kind words, because, I think the industry as a whole, the Tyler Mahan saying, a rising tide lifts all boats, man, it's been around since almost the beginning of the show. And it's kind of like, wow, it really clicked. We could do more together. And I don't know what else is left to come, Aaron.
Yeah.
But I remember stopping by seeing the Millcraft guys. I got a chance to meet you. I think they were talking about you, and it was like, that's awesome. I wish I could meet him. Yeah. This has been literally 2 years ago. And then we've been talking about having you on the show for so long. Finally got a chance to get to Michigan to do that. So, but Millcraft is primarily in Ohio.
They are. Yes. They are all in Ohio, Northeast Ohio. Is where they provide, and so that's the brand that we use. But I say we use, but at the end of the day, we're all a team. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm only as good as the people around me, and I could not be where I'm at. Even up here in Michigan, building tiny homes and prefab homes as an independent company. I would not be here without Millcraft, the builders, and the Millcraft family, the Millcraft group of guys that are there and gals. They are. I wouldn't be here right now without them, and they are amazing people. They have a great product, and it shows because again they're servants with a purpose. And when you align with people that have a purpose, and again, I know we're hitting on this a lot, but it goes back to the competition thing. And, like what you're doing, if you have everybody on this podcast that have a purpose, we all can work together.
It's like what what really surprises me is like, you can get in your own head sometimes and be like, oh gosh, did I do everything, say everything, shut up when I was supposed to, all those things on this podcast. Was I my best? Were they at their best? Surprisingly, sometimes you'll get a phone call and somebody will be like, dude, that was my favorite one. I absolutely love that one. And you're over here second guessing yourself, not realizing, keep putting out, content, keep putting out good content, ask genuine questions, because you just don't know who that's going to reach.
Yeah.
There might be somebody in that moment right now that hears that was the time they needed to. I want to shift for a minute. You used a word that me and you've talked about quite a bit. You used the word branding, like we really focused on branding. The shed industry meets branding. What's your thoughts? I know that's big, isn't it? I didn't try narrowing it down at all for you either.
I'm just going to start from the beginning, but branding, we get confused with branding and advertising. Anybody can advertise, but only the right people can brand, and again, going back to the collaboration, when you brand, you're never scared of competition because you have a brand, right? I think that I would love to see more branding in the shed world. I think we just get it mixed up, and I think that again, using your platform to educate competition even on what branding is, because again, I don't get scared of saying that, oh my goodness, I'm a brand, I like the brand, or whatnot. But branding is so important because no matter what area you're in, if you don't have a brand, look, we had lunch together.
Yeah.
You asked the question to the waiter, if you had to buy a shed, where would you buy it? His first thing was Home Depot.
Yeah.
Why? We have so many independent shed companies right here in your backyard. Yeah. Why would you go to Home Depot? Well, because I think there is a shed guy up on the road, and it's something, I forget what he said, but
something, and I think it was like something in Sons back from where I was. Where I used to live, but that company might think, and this is going to sound very harsh maybe to some people who listen in who are like, oh no, I'm taking that personal. I really feel like I'm doing a good job, and maybe you are, but generally speaking, even for large companies, it's hard to brand.
It is.
This guy's like, I would probably go to Home Depot.
Yep.
Even though that local guy was there. You know what I mean?
And I even said, you have a shed guy a mile out of town here, right? But Home Depot is 45 minutes away.
Right.
You got a guy a mile down the road, and you're going to go 45 minutes away to buy a shed at Home Depot. Yeah. And that's something I think is so important for us in our industry to understand. And I think that's why, again, going back to this whole collaboration thing, I might, if I think I have the best brand and I think that I'm doing the best job, I'm not growing, I'm stale, I'm done. I am. My mindset is I want to learn. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Right.
And I think it's very important to be able to listen to podcasts like yours and hear what my competition's doing in a way that's going to help me grow.
Right.
Where then I can get on the podcast.
Being intrusive.
You're not.
As much as it's about, hey, we can grow together, actually.
100%. Because then I can get on and I can say what I do.
Yeah.
And that might help somebody. And that's how I look at this even. Coming on here is I have nothing to hide. To me, the more information that I can give out, and I can help someone else grow, I'm going to get that twofold.
Yeah, because the industry grows.
Because the industry grows. There are thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people out there that don't need my product.
Yeah.
They need our product, but they might not want my product because maybe it's too expensive, or maybe the options aren't right, or I don't service that area. So how can I go and provide that to my competition and say, hey, why don't you, I know this guy down the road that, he's got the perfect color that you're looking for.
Something we didn't even mention is I went beyond that after asking that waiter, where would you get one? And I was like, well, I'll tell you what, just name me like 2 or 3 companies though, anywhere that I could go get one from. It didn't really matter if it was close. Name me 2 or 3 companies anywhere that you've been that I might be able to go find a shed at? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the name of any shed companies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just know Home Depot.
I just know to go to Home Depot and get a shed, I think, because there was like these ones. It was like a double decker, and it was like $2,000 or something. And it was like, you know what I mean? Completely price point driven.
Yeah. And I find myself, I travel a lot, and I do a radio show here in Traverse City, like I was saying, and people will call. People call in and talk, and I find myself when people say, well, how did you get started? And I say, well, I sell sheds. You do what?
Yeah,
I sell sheds.
Yeah,
sheds,
like in your backyard,
yeah. And I'm like, wait, we are not educating people what that industry is.
Yeah,
people only come to us when they see that their one in the backyard needs replaced.
Yeah.
Or they got so much stuff and their wife's been on them for all summer long that you got to clean out the garage. I want to park in the wintertime in my garage. And it's like, oh shoot, fall comes and you're like, okay, I'll get one, honey. And then November comes and snow goes and all of a sudden everybody goes crazy because their wife's still on them saying, hey, I want to park my vehicle in the garage.
Yeah, you got it cluttered up.
But how can, I always ask myself, and it goes back to what you asked me, how can I educate somebody what the shed world is before they need a shed?
Yeah.
That's what branding's about. Branding's about how can you get out there so that when you do walk into a restaurant, there's no reason why anybody in this city, this little village that we're in East Jordan, Michigan, that if you said that question to that waiter, they should know that, oh yeah, this is where, that guy out there outside of town here, he's got a lot of options. And I think anybody that's watching or listening to this show that has a shed retail store or a manufacturer should always ask themselves that question.
ShedHub.com is the shed industry's very first two-sided marketplace that allows you, the shed seller, to list your inventory on a site specifically designed for selling sheds. ShedHub establishes more qualified sales leads and helps your customers find you with a simple online search. Shoppers searching where to buy sheds and sheds near me have grown by 200% in the last 2 years. This means even if the buyer wants to visit a sales lot to purchase a shed, their shed buying journey started with a simple Google search. They can actually check out and purchase the shed straight from ShedHub if they prefer to shop online. ShedHub does not charge any commission for sheds you sell. We simply charge the monthly subscription. Your sales commission is still yours to keep. Sheds listed on ShedHub will have first page search results in 91% of cities, or where to buy sheds is searched. For special pricing only available through ShedGeek, simply go to geek.shedhub.com to see the promo codes that allow you to save as much as 50% off the first 12 months of your subscription, and over 75% for companies with multiple sales locations. Sell more sheds using ShedHub.com. I thought to myself, like, wow, just landing in this industry, started in purchasing, went into, did rep work for RTO, and so that created a lot of travel. I was a sales manager in between that time, and just sort of getting to know it. At one point we had 3 lots, did a truck and trailer and was like, oh no, this is not our space. Like just realizing that real quick, it comes down to realizing, why not focus on what you're good at and what's working and quit trying to, just surround yourself with people who are good at the things you're not. And, me and my wife, that's why I feel like, 23 years of marriage has worked really good, is because she completes the areas that I fail in and vice versa. We try to work like a well-oiled machine to say, hey, I'm not going to go out and try to learn how to do that thing. I'm not against it, but it's working to just collaborate, with you in this situation, and you can take care of that. And I don't have to think about it. Now I'll jump in there whenever I need to, whatever that task is, whether it's work or whether it's around the house or whatever. So that's why it works good. We've ventured out now to where we are doing marketing, and I've had to ask myself several times, previous to that, is that the space I wanted to be in? It's pretty much labeled marketing from the beginning anyway, so it wasn't too much of a stretch. But, even beyond that, I'm trying to think, what could work in my head. And I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Like, it depends on how far I get involved in the industry. And the main thing is, like we talked about, can't always walk on eggshells. At the same time, there's no desire to make people mad. If your success of an idea makes people mad, then those are the people you don't want around anyway. I mean, it sounds terrible, but like I'm
but
willing
it's true.
to. Yeah, well, I'm still willing to like have a conversation, work with them or whatever. But if it's not your tribe, you know what I mean? Like, you're just not going to work together anyway.
Put it this way: if someone came into my store and said, I want a 10 by 16, but I only have $2,000 to spend,
you're going to have to send them.
Am I going to work with them?
Right.
I mean, you're not, it's the same way. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I don't have a product for $2,000. I'm sorry, but if you go on the marketplace, there might be a used one you can find for $2,000. Heck, you might even get it for $1,500.
Yeah.
But again, and I think that's so important. It sounds harsh when we say things like that.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's the same thing. And I think, sometimes people look at what you're doing. And I think what's cool about this podcast right now is, we get on. Okay, so I'm on here.
Sheds, right?
It's not a shed. I want people to realize the only way that I have been successful, the way I have been, is to collaborating. And I think it's so important. If I go on a radio show, if I go on a podcast, if I go on anything and I'm putting a message out, the message isn't about what I'm doing and who I am. It's about, I want people to know when they listen to this podcast that what can they get out of that?
Yeah.
They don't need to hear about my success or my lack of success or whatever it is. My beauty. No, I'm joking. Okay, I was joking. We know that's not true.
I was about to say, I'll forward you the emails.
But no, I think it's important, though, for people to understand, like, again, your platform is providing so much to people. And so if I can use that platform,
you should. That's the thing, man. Use it. Like the content creation. I tell people all the time, I'm like, YouTube, whatever it is, put it on, use it for content creation, send it to your marketing guys. If you don't have one, holler at me. We'll put it on there for you. You know what I mean? But use it, because it's all free content whenever you come on and talk about it. And it's, even the Bible, I say this all the time, it says iron sharpens iron. I totally believe that 100%. The more that we get together and I love creativity. Absolutely love the idea of being creative. I believe, God was creative. So I believe if we're made in his image, we're meant to be creative too. And that's the beauty, is a lot of guys look for, this was another conversation we had, was a lot of guys look for guaranteed measurable ROI on every single thing. Like, I had somebody recently tell me, they was like, I'm getting in maybe the weeds too far here. But I had a guy tell me recently, he was like, well, I'm just trying to figure out if we spend, $500 a month on an ad with you, I'm like, I'd like to see about $10,000 in ROI or whatever on that. And I was like, if you're getting $10,000 in ROI by spending $500, you need to spend $5,000 with me, because we've got to measure in some reasonable ROI. Like a good ROI is going to be 3 to 1, right? So but in advertising, 10 to 1 is going to be magnificent. You want 20 to 1. I was like, we just like, sometimes with your ad dollars, you just got to bring it in to say, okay, is it a line item on your budget? What's a reasonable amount of ad dollars? There are professionals out here who can talk on it. I can at least touch the surface.
Hello, Shed Builder. Midco is celebrating its 15th year serving you, the Shed Builder. And we couldn't be more excited about serving you in 2023. What started as an opportunity to serve you with top quality steel and fiberglass doors has developed into an opportunity to serve you with many products. Midco offers pre-hung, slab, and overhead garage and roll-up doors, vinyl windows, aluminum shed and playhouse windows, several hardware items such as anchors, coil nails, T-hinges, drip edge, Z-bar, hurricane straps, T-handles, barrel bolts, D-handles, and louvered vents, and more. Plus, they have an accessory line of products like board and batten molded shutters, flower boxes, diamond plate ramps, and Mr. Cool mini splits. Thank you, Shed Builder, for 15 years of serving your shed brand. We look forward to 15 more. To receive information on these products and more, call 270-247-7447 or visit midcoproducts.com. Midco Building Products, trusted American craftsmanship.
this is going to segue perfectly right back
I was
into
just
our
thinking that
advertising and marketing.
I was going to say that. I mean, I think this is perfect because I think the way I had the most success with what I did was take all that language of what's my return on investment, what's my ROI, what is that? You know, I got to measure this, I got to measure that, I got to do this, I got to do that. I understand, you know, I'm a numbers guy. I know my numbers, I know my sales, I know what's going on in my stores. However, I also know the market. And I don't measure my advertising and marketing and all that stuff by, you know, oh, what's my ROI on this? You'll never, ever, ever, ever know. And someone can just tell me different and they can argue, but I will tell you, you'll never know because not everybody walks in and goes, oh, yeah, I saw your ad on Facebook. That's how I found you. No one's going to say that. You're going to say, so how did you hear about us? I drove by because that was the only thing that they did.
And they're just, well, I would even add to that. They're not even as concerned as you are with measuring your ROI. They're there
care
to buy a building or look at a building.
Correct.
So if you're genuinely trying to get down to the nuts and bolts of like what created the human behavior that drove the decision to go or to stop or to search online or whatever, sometimes it's going to be hard. And you're really going to have to drill them if you're like, let's get down to
and you don't want to do that
moment. Let's not talk about selling sheds right now. And most of your shed sellers don't care to get this like authenticity from it anyway.
Listen, I ask my managers.
I'm trying to sell. I'm not trying to confuse this guy.
I ask my managers all the time, hey, you know, put it on, you know, I used to. I don't anymore because it's an uphill battle, you know. But I'm always like, you know, hey, you know, ask them where listen, I don't want to ask them. I just asked them for, you know, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $12,000. You know, why do I? And it's not their job to do that. You know,
I'm certainly not going to grill them. So let me. Where did you hear about us? And it's like I think Facebook, but like, where were you at during the day?
It's like you're putting a gun to their head. Like, where did you hear about me?
I need to know specifically what made you stop by here.
And on that, this is what I'm going to say about that. Where I became, what made me successful in that direction of measuring the ROI, all I had to do is watch my sales go up. If my sales went up, I know that I'm successful and I'm getting my return on investment. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. So many people stop too soon.
Yeah.
You know,
do more of it.
Do more of it. And again, I'm and this isn't you telling me because you want more ad spend. It's me as somebody that's spending the ads that if it's working and your sales are going up, keep doing it. Don't think you have to have an exact number.
And this is one of the, I'll throw this out here free. This is one of the things that like we talk about. You can get to a formula to where you realize what's making sense. You know what I mean? If you're spending, you know, there's guys in this spending, you know, 15, 20 grand, way more Google ad dollars a month or whatever. You know, it just depends on where you're at in size. But if you've got a guy who's spending, you know, $5,000 and not seeing results, you know, like you got to start asking yourself a lot of different questions. Like, you know, is it the ads? Is it our reach? Are we not targeting the right way? There's probably a million things that you can, you know, track down to figure out what's working and what's not. But, you know, there comes a point to where if you can kind of figure your leads and they funnel in and you can figure your close ratio and you can say, okay, I'm spending X amount of dollars, I'm seeing X amount of return. There should be at some point, even though we talk about not measuring ROI, there comes a point where endless dollars aren't spent.
Yeah. Well, and measuring is good, but sometimes we get lost in the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is at the end of the day, do your thing, sell and do what's right. You know, I went through a year spending like $3,000 a month on this ad in this magazine that, you know, I took a chance on it and, you know, I know that it didn't work because I looked at the address. I knew what area it went in and I didn't sell one building in that area. So I knew it didn't work. I didn't have to figure it out, you know, but, you know, I think so many times we get lost in the numbers. And I think that's my biggest thing is, you know, to people when they ask me that, it's like, you need to know your numbers. You got to be smart. But at the end of the day, if you're spending and your sales are going up, then you're doing something right.
Yeah. Try to keep honing in on it, but at the same time, keep doing more of what you're doing that's working. Do all of what, as long as it's profitable. You just need to know your numbers, like you said. Know it's profitable. Know your P&Ls, and actually know them and understand them, and be able to break down the difference in revenue and profit.
You still have to know them, but don't. you got to know your numbers, but it's not set in stone. It's not the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Numbers are great. Yes, your P&L, you got to know that you're making profit, right? You got to know what your margin, that's one thing. But be okay and go out of your comfort zone and spend a little more money on something if you know you're going to get more. And you're not going to find that out in a month. You're probably not going to find it out in 3 months.
If you're in business and you don't want risk, then
exactly.
maybe question, why you're in business. There's measured risk in everything you do.
I'm going to tell you a quick story if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
When I first started, my rent for my store was about $1,600 a month. And, it was scary, and I'm paying my lease and I've got about 100 buildings on my lot. And, I've got a big building, nice building, all, nice computer, got all this stuff. I'm there 6 days a week. Got a helper helping me and doing all this. And, I got it, unfortunately, my lease, something happened with my lease, blah, blah, blah. And the guy said, hey, you know what, we're going to raise your lease to $5,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, ugh, $5,000 a month. But you know what? I had faith. Numbers, if I would have looked on paper and I would have went by my numbers, I would have said, nah. I was there for another 3 years paying $5,000 a month, and my sales went out the roof. And I never, ever didn't cover that.
Yeah.
Then I put a manager in that spot, and I'm paying a manager. Numbers probably wouldn't say to do it, right? As a store owner. But you know what? I went against the odds of what the ROI was, and 2 years later, I'm doing the sales that I'm doing. It was worth paying $5,000 a month, but up front, it wasn't worth paying $5,000 a month. But I was like, nope, I'm not going to go that game. I'm going to do what I'm good at. I'm going to do it. I can make it work, and that value and again, that goes just back to what I say that because I think it's so important that yes, numbers are great. You got to watch this, you got to watch that. But as soon as you stop because you feel like you're looking at the dollar amount and not what your sales are or what you have the capability of doing, you're not going to go. It's just like when I came up here to Northern Michigan, everything I have is in Ohio. Everything I know is in Ohio. My connections are in Ohio. The Amish community that I work with is in Ohio. My family's in Ohio. I come to Northern Michigan and start a tiny home business from scratch, knowing nothing. Why? Why did I not just stay in Ohio and do what I knew what I was doing, And I did the exact same thing in Northern Michigan here that I did in Ohio. And, this year we've tripled our business in 2 years in tiny homes and prefabs.
All progress assumes risk. In any way, shape, or form, all progress assumes risk. You just have to figure out what the level of risk is for what level of progress you want to have. Some people don't want to grow to like this big national company, and some just want to stay.
And that's okay.
Yeah, like it goes back to finding out what you want to do that you're good at and driving that.
Hey, Shannon, who is this Cal person I keep hearing about?
Cal? That's actually an affordable software solution for shed manufacturers and dealers. Cal helps streamline your order management, delivery, point of sale, and e-commerce.
What about RTO and RTO Pro?
Yes, on both accounts. Cal handles both in-house and RTO companies with a very easy step-by-step process that produces a web-based contract.
What about my Idea Room configurator?
Cal and Idea Room are seamlessly integrated. Cal is definitely worth checking out. Call Tristan at 425-359-3279 or visit calcanhelp.com. Final thoughts, and we're like, there's no telling. We could do this for 2 hours.
I know.
I want to get you on another show, but I really want to do I mean this. I want to do like a show where we can get 3 to 4 different people
I would
on there.
love that.
And then just that could, if that turns into a 2-part, 2-hour conversation, then for those who enjoy that and want to continue to listen to that, that's what we want to do. Others who want to do that or others who want to write on our newsletter, I encourage people to, contact me or something. If you've got something and you're getting started, you're a hauler, you're a seller, you're a manufacturer, whatever, something you feel like you can add in value, but your strength is maybe like commentary or like a blog, not like an article. We're not doing anything that big, but just something that's like story time, offer some value people would like to read. I'd love to do that. Advertising and marketing. This was another conversation that went on recently, and I thought it was very fascinating. What is the difference in advertising and marketing for you? How do you define the two?
This is why I wanted our ADD to not come back to this.
This is why we need another hour.
I know. So, advertising and marketing, when I think of the two, okay, now I'll tell you the truth about how I look at this. I always put branding, advertising. I put branding over here in the left, and I put advertising / marketing in the right. So usually I measure both, right? Those are the two that I would say I identify different, right? However, if I look at advertising and marketing, I would say marketing is closer to branding than what advertising to me would be like spending money in the Gold Clipper, or some of those, like a magazine or a newspaper, or so for instance, when I do my radio show here in Traverse City, I look at that as marketing, because it's also, I should say this, even though advertising and marketing might be in this category, marketing and branding to me is somewhat the same thing. It just might be a different type of, the brand is you're building a name. Marketing is what's leading you to build that name. It might be something, in my mind, first thing I think of is social media. I think of YouTube. I think of LinkedIn. If you look up Innovative Tiny Houses, which is my tiny house company, I'm on every platform there is. And we don't do a lot of YouTube right now, but we're getting into it.
It's tough to build. Like
it
YouTube,
is.
Takes a long time to build.
100%.
It takes consistency.
If you think it's easy, it's not. And so, I look at,
unless you get something really cool viral.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you could do something that would really, but
then all of a sudden,
you might have to throw 100 things at the wall for one of those things to go viral. Actually, probably more than that. But I think advertising is something that you do to give somebody a quick awareness, and they forget about you.
Yep.
You see it, they forget. Marketing, you're using marketing.
It's a bigger plan.
It's a plan that you put in place. It's like a blueprint.
Yeah.
And your end product, your home, is your brand. So you have to have marketing to create the brand. Now, you might want all three of them, but what I found in the shed world, advertising, again, I would be curious to what you say on this, okay? But I think marketing is more of a stable thing. I think a lot of times in our shed world, we think advertising. So like you might have an ad, right, put up on your thing, but is that really an ad, or is it marketing?
Yeah, I would say the same. Advertising's for a shorter, quicker return.
Correct.
Whereas marketing's sort of a larger, and I would even say marketing needs to end with plan, because you have a plan. It's not just marketing.
Yeah.
There's actually a defined plan, from building your branding guidelines all together, your color palettes of all your different things. Do you have all of that? Do you have a website which is, ground zero for your marketing campaigns to create your Google and Meta ads and things like that? Are you running social media campaigns? Are you doing threads? Are you doing, YouTube? Are you doing Linked? Are you doing, TikTok and all these different things? And if so, what are you trying to accomplish through them? Because most of them are video.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of those are video, and the purpose of video is a primary, means of communication, because we sell a product, so it's retail.
Correct.
There's only two businesses in America, and that's retail or service. You either sell a product or you sell a service. If you're selling a product, you're trying to get hands-on, or you're trying to get eyeballs on the product constantly, and that's what online kind of helps you do. If you're selling a service, you're in the service business. You're definitely in the people business. If you're selling a retail item, you're in both, because you're trying to reach them, and then you're also trying to sell them that piece of whatever it is you got. Ours is a bunch of wood and metal thrown together for you to store stuff in. So, creating a video campaign that shows people it's secondary to somebody showing up at your lot. You know, it's the same as having a website. The one thing that surprises me in the shed industry is have a website. It's your digital storefront. If you have a website and you don't have traffic, it's like having, your sheds put off way back in a 2-lane road in the middle of nowhere. It's perfectly fine with that if you're content with that. But if you're actually trying to reach people and you're not putting SEO into it, if you don't have a marketing strategy.
Wait, what's SEO?
Yeah, it's there's and a lot of people are like, I got into this to build sheds. What the heck are you talking about? I don't want to. I don't even want to go down that. So it's like, right. So find people you trust, and shameless plug for, you know what I mean. But there's so many good marketers in this space.
There is, and I think, you know, again, I think the biggest thing that I would encourage people to look at is you're trying to build a brand. How do you build that brand? Ask yourself that question. You know, if you say my goal is to, you know, sell $1 million in sheds in 2024, how am I going to do that? Well, I want to build a brand. Okay, how do I build a brand? Well, it's going to take a various amount of things, but the number one thing that you have to do is a marketing plan. I like how you said that. It's a plan, because it is. It's a various multiple things.
It's on stuff
and
at
outlets.
the wall.
If you're just, I feel like advertising, and not that all advertising is bad, because this is the thing is my radio show up here works. If I was down in Canton, Ohio doing a radio show, it's so polluted with so many different channels, it probably wouldn't work, you know, but it's a marketing plan. So you got to have a, you know, advertising to me is throwing at the well. Sometimes it'll stick and it'll work, but you have to have a little bit of the advertising in the plan. You do. I mean, there might have to be a little bit of things depending on the area you're in. But, you know, the biggest thing is brand. You got to market to get to the brand. You know, and that's what I appreciate what you do.
It's a huge conversation. I want to have more of it with you. I promise you,
dude.
We got to get back on another one, because me and you will talk probably 5 hours off air that they don't hear.
We could do like 5 parts of this, you know. So next time we need to do it on my boat in the water, you know.
That's what I'm talking about.
That would be a blast.
That'll be a first for me.
Okay,
so
hey, next summer, let's do it.
Let's do it, man. I'll be back up here. We've got some interviews we missed out on this round. We're going to come back to, and we just have to make rounds because we got several states we got to get to. Final thought I'm going to give you, or I say final thought's maybe the wrong thing. I did this recently and it worked out pretty good.
Okay.
So I'm going to try this again. I'm so used to interviewing you and other people. I'm going to give you a shot, whether it's personal life or whether it's shed business, whatever. You got a shot at 1 or 2 questions to interview the host here.
Okay. Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here, but you know, I'd be curious, you know, what got you into this world? Like what got you into the shed and even the podcast? Like what got you into that?
So sheds was specifically because this could be a long story. I was at a point in my life that I just wasn't happy. I'd had success in marriage, success raising my family, and lots of just it was going really good, but I wasn't satisfied on a personal level, and I was really going through a depression, to be perfectly honest with you. And I reached out to a friend of mine who was a childhood friend, and we just wreaked havoc whenever we was young. And you know, God had really changed his life, and for a way that I saw him really staying the course and not just playing the part. And he worked for a company that was hiring, and I got into purchasing. And then after about a year, I kind of kicked around some more because I wasn't mature enough yet to take on that responsibility that God was giving me, I think, until I eventually really completely surrendered to him. And that's not to suggest I don't still mess up. It's just to say that I surrendered to him and ended up working in like faith-based drug and alcohol rehab. And then I had a buddy reach out and say, hey, man, I know you know about sheds, and I just got a job as a sales manager kind of like type job, and you want to start a shed lot. And then I spent a whole year like absolutely learning everything about the sheds and my competition and meeting people and really wanting to like see the best for them and see the best for myself and trying to figure out how that would work. Long story short, get into sales manager, move into RTO. I'm in RTO and I'm traveling one guy to the next, and they all say the same thing. It's like they're on an island. Like, what are you seeing over here? What's happening over there? We don't feel like we have enough resources in the industry to learn and grow and be better. So it's like it turns into, how do I create something that is beneficial to all, but then also I've got to make a living, right?
Yep.
And that's the hardest part I've had to overcome, is explaining to people, hey, we have to eat too. Like, we give away tons of free information, but then I'm never really the bad guy until I cash in on it financially. It's just what it is. What it is. It has to be. So, so that was really it, man. I think I answered this maybe before one others, but whenever Deanna found out she had breast cancer, I was really struggling with how I was going to stay home and care for my family, and then also be on the road. And, I thought, a lot of times knocking on doors doesn't let people in, or they only hit you on the surface. But I wanted to see them to see who I really am.
Yeah.
And I thought the only way to do that is maybe put myself out there in a way that provides free and entertaining conversations like this. And it really worked. I was a podcast listener, loved listening to audiobooks. And all of a sudden it just hit me. It was almost like, maybe you could say divinely inspired or whatever you want to call it. But I just felt like, God, this is the right thing to do. And it hit a lick, man. It was one of those things where it's like, hey, this is who I am, like, when I'm not here.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm interested in these conversations when I'm not behind a camera or a microphone. So, and then got into the industry and realized, wow, like, me and so many others are so jaded. This industry is sometimes it's so difficult between gentlemen's agreements and just all of these different nuances. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to go out and be me. And I'm going to hope it's enough. And if God sustains it, so be it. And dude, it's made like this really cool living for me and my wife to travel. Like, I love it. It's genuinely just being absolutely unfiltered who I am. And I hope that's good enough. And if it's not, at least don't hurt my feelings. We just don't work together. But if it is, bro, it's like life changing.
Yeah. And I think, man, we could talk all day, but I think that what you just said, if we don't, I always tell people, like, look, and even customers that are looking for me to build their home, because we're building a lot more bigger homes now too in our prefab shop. And, I always say, if I'm not the right person, listen, no hard feelings. Let's shake hands and let's go our separate ways, but let's be friends. Hey, stop in whenever you want to. And I think that's sometimes where we get lost too, as we think we got to be cutthroat business people. And my goodness, like, if you don't do business with me, then you're no good. When you start thinking that way, you're not going to have success, and so you can do all the marketing you want to, you can do all the advertising you want to, you can do all the branding you want. But if you don't treat people right, and you think that just because they aren't going to buy from you,
don't look now, but I think there's some gospel in there somewhere.
I
think if we look close enough, we'll find it's the same thing we're supposed to do.
I'm sure,
dude. We can talk for days. I promise you.
I know.
Appreciate you, all that you're doing. Love the Millcraft guys. Stopped by there last year.
Absolutely.
They're
good people.
They dropped me a hat and they bought us a donut, and I was super excited about that, because that's always two things that I appreciate. I ended up giving the hat to Joe. I'm going to have to swing by there. I'll buy a hat from him. I'll trade him a hoodie or something.
But I want to thank the Foundry here where we're sitting here in East Jordan, the Foundry, and the Iron Goat for letting us use their space to do this podcast. If anybody's ever in Northern Michigan, you got to come. I mean, you had the coffee.
Dude, chai tea. It was amazing.
And then you just
really
walk down the hall, and we have lunch at the Foundry. And, I mean, right now it's smelling. You smell that?
Yeah. Well, not only the smell, but, like, the view. If you guys are here, the coffee was great. We're going to have to go down there and buy a hoodie. Or something.
She's got some great stuff. I mean, her
Iron Goat, East Jordan, Michigan, absolutely phenomenal. And the Foundry. We've had a blast. Love getting to meet you.
Thanks for having me on.
Let's do more of this, dude. Let's don't do less of it.
No, let's do more.
If we work in business together, great. If we don't, you know what I mean?
Well, if anything, we're just going to be talking on a podcast. If anything.
That's perfect. So
appreciate
you so much. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, sir.